Welcome back to the Prop Show on Fantasy Points with Josh Chevalier. I'm Rick Kamla, and we're ready to go here, guys. We have 2 weeks left in the regular season in college football, and then we have the conference championship weekend. So, Josh, we are getting towards the end here. I'm getting a little misty here. We've been having a lot of fun. We've been making the people money. Our numbers are good this year, and love doing these shows with you, man. It's also the semifinals of the college football playoffs right now. So, the NFL is still right in the middle of the regular season here, Josh, but this is money time in college football fantasy, man. How you living?
Good, man. I'm just hoping to be able to meet you in the finals in our league, dude. Like injuries have kind of hit a little bit, and so we'll see if I can, I'm confident in you, but in my own team, I'm, we'll see if I can get there for sure.
Well, I appreciate that confidence. So I've got 5 quarterbacks right now. I had Castellanos, I didn't play him in this quarterback league that we're in. I'm currently I've got Drones at home against NC State. I've got to further vet this. It's like pre-vetted, you know what I mean, JC? And then I get closer and then it just gets to decision time, right? Like get off the fence on some of this stuff. So Ward is in there. Remember I flipped Drake May for Ward. So I'm sinking or swimming with Cameron Ward. He's got a delicious matchup this week against Colorado. But I picked up Henderson, the quarterback for Texas A&M, picked up Will Howard. So I don't know. I got a decision to make there. And then I'm kind of jammed up with Scatabo at home against Oregon. Like he's at home, but it's Oregon. So I got some decisions to make here. I'm kind of jammed up with Trevor Etienne, who I think is super talented, but Montrell Johnson, is the halftime back there. So do you have any perplexing decisions that you're facing this week as you try to get to the finals?
I mean, I think my big decision is going to determine whether I get to the finals or not. It's, what happens with the Ashton Genty? Does he play? Does he not play? Right? Because I have Helani and I have Genty. So I'm kind of thinking, Utah State is a terrible defense. But if they split carries, which way do I go? I don't really know. So there's part of me that's hoping.
Both? Can you stack them, or is that not, you know what I mean?
Could
you get 20 out of both guys?
I could for sure. But I'm kind of hoping maybe Genty just rests and I can just put Helani in there and
there you
hopefully he gets 30 points and we can call it a day. I started Robichaud tonight and 24 carries for 118 yards in our league with the way that they count, I think each carry, right? Each rushing attempt is worth half a point or
I actually I don't know the scoring system of the league. I've won 3 years in a row. I know there's some magic going on here because the raw numbers don't equate to the fantasy points in this league.
Yeah, I can tell you.
Go ahead.
I can tell you that Kai Robichaud, 24 carries, 118 yards. In a normal league, this would be 11.8 points. In our league, 31 points.
Holy cow.
Boy just dropped 31 points tonight.
Did he score tonight?
No. It's like he had 24 carries, and I don't know. Like you said, our scoring system's so random.
It's very random. It's bonus based, and there's a lot of, I think it's 2 points for PPR, so I do know that. And I got to try to go for pass catching backs and that kind of thing. But guys, this gives you an idea, and hopefully this has been somewhat useful for you guys. But some tough decisions out here. I do love Eugene Wilson. I picked him up off waivers. I'm going to play him. Shipley's got me jammed up with this Phil Maffa thing. And no, I would not stack both of those guys. And that's another guy I got to make a decision on. Will Shipley has been very underwhelming all year long. And so we got a prop delivery on him for you guys here. So let's dive in on the prop show here. We were 5-5 last week. Sorry. It is what it is, man. We'll try to do better. But we're 63% on the year, 73 over 42. So the body work is pretty good here. Josh, get us kicked off with Byram Brown, who I don't know who you talked about with Mike that week that I was ill, but we haven't talked about Byram Brown this year. Okay. He's the South Florida quarterback. He's at UTSA. We're at 228.5. You over or under?
Yeah. Well, I got a special parlay for everyone. For tomorrow night, Friday night, we're going to have a protected play on Prize Picks. And Byram Brown is an over for me at 228.5. And I'm going to stack him with the quarterback also from UTSA who they'll be playing that night and who's at 273.5. And I'm expecting this to be a shootout, right? The game total 67. You have Byron Brown and the USF Bulls that are going to be under, this.
Sorry guys. Something happened with Josh's audio right there. It's Rick Kamla, Josh Chevalier on the Prop Show on Fantasy Points. Josh, I'm not sure what happened right there. Do we have your audio figured out here? Can I hear you?
I think it's good now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
He said so go ahead, my friend. Go back about 3 or 4 sentences if you can.
So I was just saying I'm going to be at the game on Friday night. This
nice.
USF UTS game. I'm taking my kids down to go watch this game. And we're looking at a shootout in this game, right? The total 67, 25 and a half points to USF. I think Byron Brown and UTSA, I think they're going to have to throw the ball in order to keep up against UTSA. I mean, UTSA is a good defense. Do not get me wrong. But this is a system. I'm going to get a little bit technical here, but the coach, Alex Golesh, he was the OC for Tennessee. Tennessee played UTSA earlier this year, and, Tennessee had quite a bit of success against this team. Now, of course, they're a P5 versus a G5 team, so that's part of it. But like Milton, I mean, he ran for 85 yards. He had 209 yards passing, but it's just because they didn't have to do anything. But he was 18 for 31. He still, threw for 60% passing. I think Byron Brown is more than capable of doing that against this UTSA defense. And so I'm going to pick the over here. And part of it is like, man, I want to see a good game, but I also watch a lot of USF football. And I just really believe in Byron Brown and that he'll be able to put up some passing yards in this game.
I like it, Josh. I'm over on this one as well. And I'll be very transparent with the people. I have not watched a lot of Byron Brown this year, but I did watch him in the Alabama game. All right, when UCF, that was when Alabama was in a really weird zone. They hadn't figured out the quarterback yet, and UCF almost beat them that day. And Byron Brown didn't have a great statistical game, but you saw the talent, and he's a dual threat talent here for USF. So I'm over on this number as well, Josh, 228.5. Like we said, last 2 games, I mean, this is a hot quarterback right now. He's gone 357 and 315. On the road, he's had 2 big games. So, I need to see that, especially from a younger guy like Byron Brown. He's been good in a couple of the road games, 338 at Navy, 357 at Memphis. So, I don't like it when we're taking a leap of faith into the step up in class, right? Or into He hasn't done this yet. So is he going to do it this week? And so we don't have to worry about that. He's got some good road games on his resume. So I do like Josh with you, Byron Brown over 228.5 with the passing yards. Now let me hit you with Cameron Ward, who I got into flipping Drake May away. And we'll see. The proof will be in the next 2 weeks and what I get from Cam Ward. And I don't even know if Drake May's still alive in this league. But huge decision I made after 2 weeks. I went with Cam Ward. There was a weird spell there when he didn't have Lincoln Victor. And I'm like, oh, my God, what did I do? What did I do to my team?
Yeah.
And he has stabilized, right? And last week had a big, big game. So I'm over this number here, Josh. And it's a big one. It's 326.5. Hear me out. And let's see where you're at. He's over this number in 3 of the last 4. So he's hit a heater after that rough stretch. And it all was based on not having Lincoln Victor. So he's gone 438, 315, 241, and 354. This is his best matchup of the entire schedule at home against crummy Colorado. Josh, everybody watching on Fantasy Points, the Colorado pass defense, it's not bad. It's not horrendous. It's horrific. 292 per game, 65% completion rate. I don't think any other team in the country is that high in either of those statistics. 2.7 passing touchdowns allowed per game. These are crazy, awful numbers. Cameron Ward has all 3 of his receivers locked, loaded, activated. Kyle Williams, Lincoln Victor, Josh Kelly. And I believe we're going to have a high-scoring game tomorrow night. I think there's going to be a lot of big plays mostly on the Washington State side. But I am digging Cameron Ward in this game, Josh. The most important part here is the cherry matchup at home against Colorado. You over or under on this?
Yeah, I'm over with you, but I'm a barely on this one. I think that Cam Ward, I think so many of his struggles this year have been pretty evident. I do think the fact that he has Lincoln Victor back, that security blanket, he was thrown to his running backs quite a bit in this last game against California, which is nice to see. And so I like the adjustments that he's made, but Colorado, like, this is a good enough opponent. I also think one of the things I looked up, Washington State is not great at rushing the passer. And those are typically teams that at least Colorado can move the ball against. You saw it against Arizona last week. They weren't good against rushing the passer. And although Shedeur did not hit his number, he still threw for, I think, 260 yards or so. And so I could see that being a factor in this game, right, where Cameron Ward's going to have to consistently throw the ball and potential, maybe not shootout, but close enough to where they're going to continue to throw the ball around and the air raid offense they run. So I'm with you, man, on an over on this one.
326.5. We're going over on Cam Ward. Very talented QB, guys. Now in the same game, Josh, I'm fading Shedeur Sanders here, 307.5. I'm under on this. We got a short week and we're on the road. I don't like that. The Buffs have not been reliable for about 2 months. Sanders has been under this number in 4 of the last 5 games. Washington's pass defense is on the year 249 allowed, 62% allowed, and 1.1 touchdowns. It's below average, but not god awful. But I feel like, Josh, I want to vibe this out a little bit, right? We get the stats, we give you all angles here. You were talking about technical. I'm just going to vibe it out with you and the people right now on Fantasy Points College Football. I feel like the Buffs are just limping to the finish line here. I feel like they weren't in good enough shape to make it through this year. And they're not even close to good enough in the trenches, right? They don't heat up other quarterbacks. They don't protect their quarterback. It's a very flawed football team. Their offensive line is one of the worst in the nation. And I looked this up as well. Washington State's pass defense. Literally, I had to search like Columbus back in the damn day, finding America to find the sacks on this team. They have 17 sacks over 10 games. Ugh, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. Right. So, but I'm under on Shedeur Sanders, man. Under this number in 4 of the last 5. He's not living over this number right now. He's on the road short week. So hit me, man. Where are you at with Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this Washington State pass defense is actually like pretty decent, right? Considering they don't get to the quarterback and they're still holding teams under. Even last week against California, they did really well. And look, I'm not even going to make a case. I'm just going to say, what is it, Nathaniel Hackett, right? Who is it that's the offensive coordinator? It's not Nathaniel Hackett. Anyways, is it Pat Shermer? It's some retread. No,
it was Sean Riley. Does that?
Well, it was Sean Lewis, but they demoted him.
Sean Lewis.
And now they have some school flamed out in the NFL that's clearly doesn't know what he's doing. With the personnel he's got. I'm out. Deion Sanders is Sean Lewis is a genius. And when you put Sean Lewis to the side, that just shows me that you don't know what you're doing. And so I'm a little bit frustrated at Deion. So I'm definitely going under on his son, Shedeur. One more thing on something I just thought about with Cam Ward here. Cam Ward traditionally has struggled against teams that are going to drop basically 8 in coverage. They're going to play some zone and make them try to pick apart and go underneath. That's not what Colorado is going to do, right? They're going to man you up with their 5-star corners and make you beat them in that way. And so I could see Cam Ward having a lot of success against that type of defense because he has in the past. So just another feather in the cap for our boy Cam. And Shedeur, man, yeah. Sorry, man. Hopefully 2024 will be a better ending to the year for you.
Well, he may be an Aggie. He may be a Texas A&M Aggie, all right? He may go with Travis Hunter and his pop to College Station. Who the heck knows, right? They blew Jimbo Fisher out, which that was a little weird. $69 million to not work. Wow, good living. It's a really good living. And he's probably going to get another job and just start adding more millions to the resume. But it's Rick Kamla, Josh Chevalier. We're the prop show on Fantasy Points. And then Cade Klubnik is the last quarterback we have for you guys. He's at home against North Carolina. It is a very attractive number, and I still like the under on this number, 237.5. He's got a very strange home and road trend. He's been under this number in 4 of 6 home games, over this number in the last 3 road games. And he's been under this number in the last 3 games at home. So we're consistently going under at home. We're consistently going over on the road. This is a home game. And I believe that the game script is going to be very much in our favor going under on Klubnik here. Dabo Swinney is going to run the heck out of Shipley and Phil Maffa, bleed clock, keep Drake May off the football field. And the North Carolina run defense is dreadful. They're giving up 154 per game. And we'll get to Shipley here in a minute. But Clemson isn't going to have to throw the ball a ton in this game. I'm not entirely sure that Dabo has a million miles of trust in Cade Klubnik. I mean, he trusts him, kind of, but he doesn't want Cade Klubnik out there throwing 37, 40, 44 balls. That's not Clemson football. They like to run the rock. And so I'm under on even a low number here, Josh, at 237.5. Where you at?
Yeah, I'm with you. You know, this is a number that I want. It was very attractive to take the over, right? Just like you just said, but you just see the formula for success, right? What they did against Notre Dame, what they did this last week. I mean, they've simplified their run schemes, and now you have a team that is they're clicking and figuring out what they can do well. And, you know, I think it took Garrett Riley a little bit to figure out this team and their personnel, and maybe an injury to Will Shipley to unlock Maffa in some ways. And yeah, I think they found kind of the recipe for success, and why change it, you know, against a North Carolina team that you can run the ball against them for sure. So yeah, I'm with you. The game script just isn't in Klubnik's favor. Could he hit this number? Yes, but it would have to take them getting, you know, they'd have to be down 2 to 3 touchdowns pretty early for him to be able to hit this number, right? I mean, and I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening either. I've got Clemson covering the spread over at Fantasy Points. You can read the article. I'll be putting a video out on that tomorrow. But I do like Clemson. I mean, it's North Carolina on the road. It's Mac Brown and his choky coaching against Dabo Swinney. Please, come on, stop. All right, yep. So get us cranked up here on some of the running backs, JC. It's Cam, it's JC. We're the prop show on Fantasy Points. Amarian Hampton. Again, same game at home against Clemson. We're at 89.5 here. You over or under on Hampton?
Yeah. Maybe we're crazy for saying this, but I'm going over, right? I mean, this number, it looks attractive. I think it is attractive. Clemson has been unbelievable against running back ones. 12 carries for 49 yards. The closest to this number was Estime Audric. He hit 17 for 87. So no running back so far this year has hit over 89 yards against Clemson. But, man, Amarian Hampton over the last 5 games, 23 carries, 155 yards is what he's averaging. His low over that span is 112. And he's, you know, this is just a fun fact. His yards after contact over this last 5-game period, he went over the 89.5 yard number in just yards after contact. I mean, this is a guy, physical runner since Miami. It's clicked for him, and he is killing it. And I think just sheer volume alone, they're going to give him the rock 20 to 25 times. And I think that alone is going to be able to get him to the over number here. And, man, I'm just going to trust Amarian Hampton until he proves me wrong at this point.
Well, remember a week or so ago, I said it's time to get off the Ollie Gordon train, right, and go under on his number. It was a massive number. And I believe, Josh, you were over on that number, and you were right. He hit the over on that. So, you know, the hot hand thing is important. And you know, in all sports, but in college football, when they find a guy that's just rolling like Hampton is right now, they're not going to disrupt that. It's who they are right now. He's one of the hottest backs in the nation. 5 straight 100-yard games, well over in all of the games. He's getting a ton of carries. He's gone 24, 19, 29, 15, and 31 with the carries over this massive 5-game stretch. Clemson's run defense is not shut down, Josh. It's good, But overall, it's not shut down. We're giving up 109. We're giving up 3.4 per carry and 1.2 scores. Yeah, they're good numbers, but it's not, like Miami's run defense, right? I was looking at that. Their run defense is awesome. They're giving up like 82 rushing yards a game. Clemson's run defense isn't that good. And Hampton's a stud, and I trust him in a meat grinder game like this. So I'm over on this as well, 89.5 on Omari and Hampton, the back for North Carolina. Now let's go to another back in this game. On the Clemson side, Will Shipley. And Josh, I'm going to be taking notes here because, like I said, I got a Will Shipley decision to make in the ATL Radio League where I'm in the semis, Josh is in the semis. We're trying to meet each other in the championship game here. But Will Shipley's number is 68.5. You over or under on it?
Yeah, well, initially coming into this conversation, I mean, literally until 2 minutes before we hit record on this thing, I was over. And I have to admit, like, I'm going to stay away on this at this point because although 68.5 looks attractive, I mean, this is a guy that didn't start last week, right? He looked great when he ran the ball, but, I mean, a guy that's got 11 carries last game, that's pretty scary for me. Honestly, if we can get a Maffa number that's like a 77, something like that, I would take it. But, man, Shipley, I want a Clemson running back number, but Shipley's not the running back that I want, right? I mean, our boy Maffa had, 17 carries last game to Shipley's 11. So I'm going to be a stay away on this because I just don't know. I think he could, but ultimately, Maffa's the guy that I want to be betting on. Ultimately, what do you got? Cam, I can't hear you. I think you may be muted now.
My bad. I was muted right there. I don't disagree with anything you're saying right here. I have lived the Will Shipley experience. Okay, he was a very highly drafted guy for me. In the ATL Radio League. I took Jaden McMillan very high. How'd that work out for him? He's been a total dud this year, injured. Will Shipley, there's been a carry problem all year for Will Shipley, right? Even the early games, but I was telling myself, all right, it's a game against like Jackson State and Carolina Coastal University A&M and all this kind of stuff. All right, screw it. They're just shelving him for the ACC schedule. His carries have gone up, but not as much as you want, right? He's not like the true bell cow. He hasn't been all year long. Moffa actually has better total numbers on the year than Will Shipley does. So there's a lot of downside here, guys. I'm under on Will Shipley. And I believe that, the sports books have this line, and they don't want to put out a Moffa line because they know we're all going to crush the Moffa line. So they got a Shipley line out there, and they think we're going to be a sucker and take the bait. No, I'll go under on this number. Returned from injury last week, 11 carries. He did have 77 yards and a TD, and he did well through the air as well. But it's the reduced carries. I just don't trust it, man. I don't. Moffa 2 weeks ago had one of the best running back games in Clemson history. He's by far the hotter back right now. Shipley's been under this number in his full body of work 5 of the 9 games. So we're at 55% to the under. And he was one of the big boys of college football coming into the year. Has not gone that way. And it is a great matchup. We should be crushing the over here on Will Shipley. All right. UNC's giving up 4.1 yards per carry, $154 per game. We should be hammering this number. We're not. Okay. Yeah. So I'm under, and Josh is a stay away on Will Shipley. Now let's go to Jawar Jordan, the Louisville running back, and they are at Miami this week, 85.5. JC, take us into this one.
Yeah. Look, Miami, like you said a few minutes ago, they've been shut down this year. Now, what Miami wants to do defensively, they want to make you they want to take away one of your strengths, right? And allow you to only either run the ball or pass the ball. Well, this year they decided to stop the run for almost every team. The running back ones against Miami, 12 carries for 60 yards. So this is a team that hasn't really allowed any running backs to really go off, other than our boy Hampton that we mentioned. This is Hampton's breakout game against Miami. He had 24 carries for 197. But other than that, Benson last week, he had 80 yards. The next closest after that is Amari Daniels at 62. So, 85.5. Nobody's hit that except Hampton. And if you look at the two running backs that got closest, Benson and Hampton are both guys that are 215, 220. Well, that's not Jawar Jordan. Jawar Jordan's a 200-pound 190-pound scat back, right? Those aren't the backs that are having success against Miami. Miami's going to throw the kitchen sink at Jawar Jordan to stop him. And they're going to say, Jack Plummer, beat us through the air. Try it. And we'll see what happens.
Great breakdown, Josh. I agree with all of it. I'm under on this number as well. We talked about the Miami run defense. They're giving up 2.8 yards per carry. I love the way they tackled and competed last week against FSU, Josh. Like, it's like they came out of their funk, out of that haze that they were in. Like, I had Florida State covering last week, right? So I thought it was a good spot for them, right? Didn't work out that way. Emory Williams starts, blows the tire with the arm. God bless the kid. That looked like really bad. They still couldn't cover, right? Well, give it to Miami. Okay. It was a rivalry game, but I think that's kind of rekindled them a little bit. I don't trust Louisville on the road. I have been hitting Louisville ATS releases at home, but they're a different team on the road here. And Isaac Guerrero has buzzkilled this stretch run for Jawar Jordan. Guerrero's been really good in 3 of the last 4 games, like really good. And I had another big game last week. So where it was Jawar Jordan's backfield, now he's the lead back, but he's not the bell cow back. So I'm under here on 85.5, JC. I am with you. Yeah. We are the prop show. You got something else on this?
No, that was it. Well, I will say this. Last week we picked the under and we hit it on Jawar Jordan, but it's because Guerrero, right? He had a 65-yard carry to end that game, and it wasn't Jawar Jordan. So,
right.
We're riding that same train.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Guerrero is a beast. He's a transfer from Wisconsin. He's like a cold weather back. He's a big brute of a back. He's pretty talented, actually. And if one of these guys went out of the picture for a minute, God forbid, oh my God, the dude left would smash because Louisville's been doing it this year. But Josh, let's move on here to Jamari Thrash. Same game here. We're at Miami, 65.5. I love the bounce back angle here, Josh. I'm on the over here. As you know, football's a week-to-week sport. NFL, college, week-to-week sport. I like to go with teams and players coming off of, bad weeks and subpar stuff because it tends to come back. We get a regression to the mean and a bounce back factor and all that stuff. Thrash sucked last week. 3 catches, 22 yards. He was over this number in the 3 previous games. The Miami defense is average. They're giving up 226, 56% completion rate. And we talked about their run defense, and you made a great point about how they choose one side to take out. And then we've talked about Thrash before. I see future NFL wide receiver when I see Thrash. He's really talented. He can really go. So, and he can – look, Miami's got athletes, right? They always do. And he can run with these guys. So I like the over on Thrash.
Yeah. I have Thrash as a top 20 W wide receiver, overall. And so I'm with you, man. I mean, this guy is a future NFL wide receiver, and Thrash is the type of wide receiver that Miami struggled to stop throughout the years, really. But these fast wide receivers that can get deep. I mean, just this year alone, think about Tez Walker, right? We had Malik Washington for UVA. You have Evan Stewart for Texas A&M. I mean, you're talking about these guys, they averaged 9 catches for 142 yards against Miami. I mean, and you're talking about a team that they had 2 of their best DBs that are cornerbacks that were out last game. I don't see at least one of them coming back this game. And so, Jamari Thrash is really going to be able to have some opportunity. They're going to still have to stop the run. 65.5, that's just such a low number for Thrash to be able to hit, and I expect them to hit it in this game. I mean, it's the one way that they're going to be they could be potentially playing in the ACC championship game in 2 weeks, right? If they can win these last couple games. And so they're going to do everything they can to scheme it up for them to be able to do that. And it's going to have to be through the air, and they'll scheme up a Thrash touchdown, a long touchdown to me. And that'll all it'll take for him to be able to hit this number. So, yeah,
Guys, that's Josh Chevalier. I'm Rick Kamla. We're the prop show here on Fantasy Points. And you mentioned, riding it here and fading Jawar Jordan again. Well, Eugene Wilson. All right, Josh, last week got it against LSU. And frankly, that was one of his lower games here over this really fine stretch from Eugene Wilson. Are we riding the hot hand with Eugene Wilson, or are you jumping off the Eugene Wilson train here? He's a Florida wide receiver. He's at Missouri this week, 63.5 receiving yards is the number. Where are you at?
Yeah. No, I'm going back to this. Well, I mean, 5 straight weeks with Eugene Wilson. I mean, he's a guy that I really, really trust because of the high volume that he gets. He gets tons of receptions, and he's a playmaker. I also think, right, last week he had, 6 for 63, right, last week. But they did not target him for like almost a whole 2.5 quarters of that game. So I think this is a little bit of a bounce back, even though he missed that prop by half a yard last week. Like, this is a bounce back game for him, in my opinion, because even though he hit 63, he could have had so much more in that game. So I think they go back to him against Missouri this week, and I think he hits the over on this one.
Shout out to Prize Picks with a good number last week. I mean, we missed it by. I mean, shout out to they got us. All right, we've been getting Prize Picks a lot of the year. All right, our percentage is very good, but they take a bite out of us every once in a while too, man. And that was one of them. Tough beat. That was a tough beat. All right, I'm over on Eugene Wilson as well. Eugene Wilson will be in my starting lineup in this semifinal game in the ATL Radio League. I scooped him up off waivers this week, and I just like the consistency. I like the volume guys. You remember Golden Tate, right? Back when he was in the NFL. I just like guys that are getting 10 targets and 7-8 catches a game, right? They're just there every game. They're going to give you something solid. I always try to stack my teams where, you want all the premium talent you can get. I just want every dude on my team, kickers, defense, everybody giving me double digits, okay? It could be 25. It could be 11. I don't want a single digit number, okay? And in college football fantasy, so many times, the tight end position, right? Oh my God, it's such a hard spot to fill with a double-digit guy. Any old way, random take, sorry. But on Eugene Wilson here, right? I do feel like there's a little bit of a bounce back coming off the LSU game as well. And we talked about the consistency. Missouri's pass defense is below average. They're giving up 232 per game, 62% completion rate, and 1.9 passing touchdowns per game. So I like Eugene Wilson here as well, Josh, over 63.5. All right. The plot thickens here as we bring in your boy, Xavier Weaver, as the Texas Longhorns go. As you know, they're already on upset alert, Josh. They're going to Iowa State with Matt Campbell, and it does not matter who's in his uniform. He's always got a really good defense, and it's always difficult to go win there. So you guys got a fight on your hands, the Longhorns, man. Obviously a critical game for Sark and the guys. But Worthy's number here is 66.5. It seems pretty attractive, Josh. You over or under?
Yeah, I'm over on this. I mean, in fact, one of my main plays that I've already put out there is I got a parlay with Jamari Thrash at his number at 65.5 with Xavier Worthy at this number. And here's why. Last 3 games, Worthy's got 12 targets. So the deeper they go into the year, he's averaging 12 targets a game. So the deeper they go into the year, the more they're relying on Xavier Worthy. In the last, let me check this out. Last 4 games with Quinn, he's averaging 8 catches for 108 yards. So this is a guy that Quinn, they adjusted how they're using him, right? Like, they were a lot of deep shots early on in the year. They hit him on a lot of slants, a lot of screens. I mean, things that are pretty quick, 10-yard pops for Xavier Worthy. And so this just feels to me, and obviously it's a good run defense too. They lost Jonathan Brooks, not to go down narrative street too much, but I think they're going to have to rely on Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, those guys in this game in order to win. And it's going to be a tough game for sure. So I'm going over.
We got a narrative street reference. Always makes me laugh. It cracks me up. I know that you had Jonathan Brooks in this league that we're both in. You also had CJ Baxter, right? Am I correct that you backed him up with the homeowners insurance?
I think I did. I think I dropped him at some point. So
who got Baxter?
I don't know. I don't think he's out there.
I'm checking waivers right now. Dang it! I'm gonna check waivers as soon as we get off the air. I think I already checked in the week. I think he's already on a team, but Baxter's going to be the guy right now. I had sucks with Brooks, man. He was having such a big year, and It just happens, man. Injuries happen at the worst time in all of these fantasy sports. But I'm over on Xavier Weaver as well. He's a big time player. He's going to be a future NFL stud. He's got first round pick written all over him. And this is the kind of game where you got to be that cut from that kind of cloth, right? This is at Iowa State deep into the year. We're, going to be like almost at Thanksgiving here, right? Weather may be an issue. Just in terms of cold, a little windy, all that kind of stuff. Only big time players, I shouldn't say only, but typically it takes a big time player to go produce at Iowa State. They have a very good pass defense. They're giving up 204, 53.8%. So those are good numbers, all right? But Ewers returned last week, and it was like we're making up for lost time a little bit. 10 for 137. And it's a huge game for Texas, 9-1, still on the fringe of this thing. So I think it's going to be full focused and locked in and over here for Xavier Weaver. Xavier Worthy at 66.5. All right, now talk to me, Josh, here about one of the best names in college football. His name is Joseph Manjack. He's a wide receiver with the Houston Cougs, and they will be hosting Oklahoma State here this week. 55.5 receiving yards on Manjack. Josh, where are you at?
Well, let me give this man his whole due, because he is Joseph Manjack the fourth.
Oh, wow. Oh, sorry.
This guy's
wow,
elite.
There's four of these Manjacks on earth. Wow.
They're like, man, we can't let this name go. We just got to keep it going over probably since the 19th century. So here we are, Joseph Manjack, 55.5 yards. I like this for a couple reasons. One, Matthew Golden is out for the season. So that's one. Houston had a pretty bad game last week against Cincinnati. I think they threw for like 100 yards. But, they've traditionally this year been a pretty good passing team. I mean, at least 250 yards per game in most games. So I'm expecting a bounce back this week. And Oklahoma State's not very good, particularly to slot wide receivers, which is what our boy Joseph Manjack plays. I'll throw one set out. Manjack is the wide receiver 2 for Houston, but against wide receiver 2s, Oklahoma State is giving up 4 catches for 69 yards. So we got 14 yards that we're playing around with for Manjack this week, and I like that. And I like Manjack and on Price Picks this week. I like him in DFS. I think this is a guy that is going to have a very good week, and I think we're going to benefit from that.
I'm over on Manjack as well. I love the name. I'm sorry to keep hitting it like that. It's a cool name. Joseph Manjack the fourth. And there will be a fifth and a sixth. I mean, you got to keep rolling at this point, right? So, they got to keep having boys, though. I don't know. Maybe if it's Josephina. Anyway, but I do like, it's been a long day, people. Sorry. But Manjack, I like the over here. I do. I think this is well sniffed by you, Josh, because Manjack is not an on-the-radar guy in college football. Trust us on that. But he's been very busy. He's got at least 4 grabs in the last 5 games. Oklahoma's pass defense is awful. They're giving up 255 per game. 255, and we got a 55.5 here. There's so much wiggle room there. Donovan Smith has been up and down for sure, and you documented that. Overall, the numbers are still pretty good. I believe it's 25 total touchdowns over, I think, 10 games. So that's not horrible. He's at home. He should be productive, and he's going to get the ball to our boy, Manjack the fourth. Okay. So before we get out of here, people, and good luck on these props, man. Let's talk about some of the biggest games. This is not a cherry week in college football. Sorry, it's just not. We got a lot of teams, second to last game. The SEC guys love to welcome like Abilene Christian up into their home for a shredding, right? In this second to last game of the year scenario. So there's not a ton of great games, a lot of sort of like unbalanced matchups. But we have Washington at Oregon State. Huge game. Oregon is 11th in the country. Washington's 5th in the country. Washington's perfect, but they're not perfect enough because they're not in the top 4 of the college football playoff ranking. They need to keep winning, and they need help. They need one of these other guys to lose. And I have good news for them. Michigan or Ohio State will lose. They're going to play each other, and one of them is going to take an L. So that may be their end. to the college football playoff Final Four. But Josh, where are you at with this one, man? Washington is actually getting points. Oregon State is the favored team.
Yeah. Look, man, Oregon State, they're a tough team, right? I mean, this is a team that they just get you into a dogfight. Similar to Wisconsin, I feel like when they were at their heyday, like you just
Hold
don't
on,
know.
not with Luke Fickell, not the soft ass Luke Fickell Badgers, Josh, not that.
I said their heyday, bro. Not now. Not now.
Can you believe how bad Wisconsin has been this year?
I cannot. Look.
Isn't it shocking? Like, I mean, I know it's a startup, but I'm like, they've been god awful. Wisconsin, like, I'm used to them at least being decent.
And we're gonna take this tangent because Luke Fickell had one of the toughest teams in the G5 with Cincinnati. I mean, he had a nasty line, nasty running game. And then he goes to the place where that's what they're known for, and he brings in the dairy raid. Like, why? Why bring in an air raid offense? You got too cute, bro. You had this set up for you.
And Tanner Mordecai is face planted, man. Those numbers at SMU were fraudulent. They did not translate to the Big Ten, man. Any old way, Josh.
You had Braylon Allen.
I know.
What happened, bro? Fickell, you got too cute. Back to this game. You know, I don't know. This is really tough. I mean, I just can't see where Washington is going to have so much incentive. They have so many ways that they can beat you, right? Like, it's like now that Dylan Johnson's like doing his thing and they're riding him. I mean, if the passing game isn't working for some reason, they can rely on Dylan Johnson. I like that they have so many outs to beat Oregon State. I think this is going to depend on whether they can punch Oregon State in the mouth pretty quickly. And I think Cam Ward, remember Washington State had a pretty good game against Oregon State earlier in the year with a similar system. And I think that may be a blueprint here for Washington to be able to get. So I'm gonna take Washington with the points. I'm not pumped about that, to be honest, because I really, really, really like Oregon State, and I think they play well. They're built for these types of games. But I just think give me the team that has so many outs offensively with the offensive genius and DeBoer, and I'm gonna ride with Washington on this one.
So I'm on Washington as well. It's one of my releases. You can catch the article on Fantasy Points. I'll be putting out the video tomorrow. I am on Washington here plus the points. One of my rules, and I will make an exception, but it's very rare, is I don't like laying points on the road in conference play. We're not laying points. We're getting points, okay? And it's going to be a meat grinder game. There's no question. And, you know, people like to be on more of a game where they, feel confident about it or where there's a bigger point spread. I don't know. Sometimes, going with, last week I hit on Michigan, right? I had a bad week last week, Josh. Really, oh my God, was it brutal? I lost Jason Bean early in the Kansas game, so that wasn't a cover. The dumbass kid for Washington leaves the damn football at the 2-yard line instead of scoring the defensive touchdown, and that kept Washington from covering the spread. And I had some other dumbass bad luck happen too. But the one I hit last week was Michigan and Penn State, right? Everybody was saying coin flip, tight spread. That wasn't a damn coin flip, man. Come on, it's James Franklin against a big boy. We already know. So I'm on Washington, dude. And DJ Uiagalelei, right? He had a penchant for coming up lame in the clutch at Clemson, and he's been better this year at Oregon State. But this is Penix, this is Washington, this is your highest profile matchup of the year. And I'm sniffing maybe a couple of big mistakes here from DJU where we're like, oh, we're back to the Clemson thing. I'm on Washington. All right, JC, who you got? Georgia at Tennessee. Are the dogs on upset alert here? I was looking at Georgia, Josh, and this isn't one of my releases. I sniffed it out. I just don't like it. It's like 9.5, 10.5. Georgia's favored. Tennessee has been better at home, obviously, and Georgia hasn't been that good on the road, right? They beat Vandy by 17. What was that? You got to beat them by 50. And then Auburn, right? Auburn, I mean, they've gotten it cooking a little bit against some bad SEC teams. They've won 3
Yeah.
in a row, but Auburn sucks this year, right? Georgia should have taken their damn heads off, and they needed that clutch Beck to Bowers drive in the fourth quarter to win that game. So Georgia's been a little bit vulnerable on the road here, man. So that's the setup, Josh. Where are you at? Dogs or Vols here?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time we've been discussing Georgia on this podcast and we're like, hey, like maybe they've struggled, they come out and they smash Kentucky or whatever, right? I think it's the teams like Tennessee is not going to sneak up on them, right? Like this is a team that like Josh Heupel, known as this offensive guru, offensive genius, which nothing to take away from that man. That man's awesome. I love him as a coordinator and a play caller. But Kirby, I think, takes that stuff personally, and he's a defensive guy. And I think Georgia's going to cover here. I think Brock Bowers, they eased him in last week, but I think this is the week, and I really like Carson Beck and that passing game that they have to go along to complement the running game that they always have at Georgia. And so I think they're going to be tough for Tennessee to stop, although Tennessee does have a good defense. I think it's going to be tough for them to stop Georgia, while I think Georgia is going to be prepared to yeah. I mean, we're not going to rely on Milton against the Georgia defense. That's not a good place to be. And so I think there's going to be enough to shut them down, and I think enough motivation, enough tools on offense to be able to score enough points to cover the spread here.
Okay, it's if I had to play it, I would play the Dogs because of Joe Milton.
Yeah.
He was a first-round pick in college football fantasy drafts, man, because he's taking over for Hendon Hooker. It's a, swashbuckling system that the right quarterback is just going to pile up league-winning digits, right?
Yeah.
Joe Milton ain't that guy, and he's not even a runner with that big body, that big athletic body. Pardon me. It's crazy to me that he's not more of a runner, and especially in an offense where Hendon Hooker was a dual threat last year. But this is why Joe Milton never really caught on with Michigan, right? Like, he's not that good. He's like, he's a Power 5 quarterback, but, it is what it is, man. So if they had a better QB, I would definitely take Tennessee to cover the spread here. But I don't trust Joe Milton. And, Kendall Milton's rolling now, obviously Dejon Edwards and all the receivers, and Bowers is back. Like, Georgia's clicking and kind of hitting stride here at the right time. And I mean, they're undefeated. They haven't lost this year, but they really are kind of getting this thing together and trying to make a push for this three-peat. And then finally, right up the road from you, Josh, in Texas, it'll be a big one in Kansas. 21st ranked Kansas State at 25th ranked Kansas. And did I see today that Jalen Daniels is coming back? I thought I saw that on Twitter. So where are you at with this one, man? K-State or KU?
Yeah, it's hard for me to trust Kansas at this point. I mean, especially I think Kansas State in general, they are. I mean, but I was going to say they're a well-coached team. Both of these are well-coached teams, but I just trust Kansas State more. I think what they do as far as their running game is really impressive. I like their defense, and I think their defense gives them an edge against this Kansas team. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think is Bean. Do we know that Bean's back and he's healthy? Have you seen that yet?
Jalen Daniels announced on Twitter that he is going to play. I just confirmed that.
He's going to play.
So I don't know about Bean. Go ahead, but it looks like Jalen Daniels is going to play. He announced it on Twitter that he's coming back.
I thought that just meant he's coming back for the 2024 season.
Oh, that might have been it. That might have been it, dude. Let me see here. Is he? Yeah. Return to the Jayhawks in 2024 amid transfer speculation here. So yeah, that is interesting right there. So that speaks to him being done for the year. If we're already talking about 2024, then Jalen Daniels ain't playing football for KU this year.
Yeah, and the fact that this line has already slid 2 points, right? It's at 9.5 now. It started at 7.5. I just think Kansas State, I think they're going to be able to take this one. I think they'll be able to take this one pretty easily, to be honest. I do think Kansas has some firepower on offense, but defensively, you just can't shut down the opposition, then especially against a tough Kansas State team, um, then I don't see them being able to cover the points here.
I like K-State as well here, Josh. Look, I got bamboozled a really bad beat last week with Kansas against Texas Tech because Jason Bean went out. So I'm going to play Devin Neal in my semifinal game in ATL Radio and hope for the best here with a shabby quarterback situation. But it is what it is. I like K-State as well, even at the home of the Jayhawks there. JC, anything you want to tell the people before we say bye-bye and wish them luck in week 12?
Yeah, well, yeah, the main thing is good luck. This is we got potentially one more week. I mean, the prop show, like, next Thursday is Thanksgiving, so I'm not sure if we're going to be on here next week. I guess we got to talk about that, if there's going to be another day that we're going to do this or whatever. But I think it's good luck. These props, I think they're decent this week. I think we have some edges, and so yeah, good luck to that. But it's gonna be a fun week of getting to be able to watch some football, and then head off to go see families after this week and enjoying the holidays. So
Indeed, man. Indeed. Josh, go get a win this week in ATL Radio. I'll try to comply with that plan, and maybe we'll meet on the mountaintop. I do have a little bit of unfinished business with you. You cranked me earlier this year, so I'd like to settle the score there and with another chip. But anyway, man, good luck in your matchup. Everybody, good luck to you this week in college football, whether it's ATS, whether it's props. For Josh Chevalier, for our great producer, Tom Tipple, I'm Rick Kamla. This is the Prop Show on Fantasy Points. Bye-bye.